Those who refuse the gift of eternal life are condemned to wander in the darkness of eternal night. Coming this fall from SJS Direct. Joe Biden just picked Kamala Harris to become his vice presidential running mate. And with that decision, he may have possibly cost himself the 2020 election. And the reason why Joe Biden may have possibly cost himself the 2020 election is because he doesn't understand about two core demographics that the Democratic Party needs in order to win in 2020. Now, Kamala Harris is someone who would alienate these two core demographics, white women and black men. And most black men have an issue with Kamala Harris as related to her record as a prosecutor in San Francisco. Now, your Kamala Harris practically waged war on black men as she went out to prosecute black men and put them in prison for long and extended sentences. And this is something that black men have continued to remember and are going to remember on election day when they have to pick a candidate to become the next president of the United States. And when most black men look at your Joe Biden and your Kamala Harris, basically they see team white supremacy standing up in front of them, because most black men, when they see a white man standing next to an allegedly black woman, they know that is a team that is very destructive to heterosexual black men, and it's a team meant to wage war on heterosexual black men. And when they see that team standing together, they know that there's going to be no benefit for them, and that this team will work effectively towards going out here to oppress the heterosexual black man and have him as a part of the prison system. And Joe Biden's track record for going after heterosexual black men has been cemented in the war on drugs and the 1994 crime bill and the 3 strikes and you're outlaw. So many black men look at Joe Biden's record as related to the mass incarceration of black men, and then they look at Kamala Harris's record as for prosecuting black men, and they see a team dedicated towards their oppression here in America, and a team that is not going to benefit them overall. In addition to not seeing a team meant to benefit them, most black men look at Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and they don't see a team dedicated towards giving black men any sort of tangibles as related to black empowerment. Because, again, Joe Biden was all about making black men cheap slave labor in the prison industrial complex, and Kamala Harris was all about creating that prison pipeline to create that cheap slave labor for the prison pipeline. So black men as a demographic and a collective don't see any sort of incentive for supporting a Biden-Harris ticket. And this is something that Joe Biden really did not think about critically when he was picking a running mate, and this may cost him the key demographic that Democrats need in order to beat Donald Trump in 2020. Because in order for Joe Biden to win, he needed to get black men who were already apprehensive about his records as related to the war on drugs, the 94 crime bill, and the 3 strikes and you're outlaw. They were already on the fence about not supporting him, and going with Kamala Harris practically pushed many of these black men over to the side of Team Trump, because they'd rather have 4 more years of Donald Trump than deal with a man who has already shown with a proven track record that he is not supportive of heterosexual black men or empowering heterosexual black men with jobs. They look at Joe Biden and they don't see a presidential candidate that benefits black men, and they don't see a platform dedicated towards bringing tangibles to black men or black communities, or a platform dedicated to rebuilding the black man or reestablishing the black man as a head of household and leader of black communities. No, the decision to, choose Kamala Harris as the vice president, this was done to pander to black women, and your Joe Biden probably believes that he can probably take advantage of a black female vote the same way Stacey Abrams thought she could take advantage of a black female vote and win the governorship of Georgia. But this is a very high-risk decision, and as I see it, not a very good one, because just gambling on the black female vote is, as I see it, just not enough to get over and win the election. And that leads into the other demographic Joe Biden practically alienated with the decision to elect Kamala Harris, the demographic of white women. Now, the demographic of white women is a very important one because 51% of America's population is female, and in the 2016 election, it was white females in a large majority who went out here and chose Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton. And the reason why those white females chose Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump had to do with female nature, because white females don't like other white females, and they don't like having a white female in charge of them. And that's core to their female nature. And also, with the fact that Donald Trump was a rich billionaire, he triggered their hypergamy, and that gave the white females more incentive to go vote for Donald Trump because he appeared to be the rich white alpha male and the ideal of the man they wanted to get involved with, and he was the kind of man who appeared to be the kind of man they wanted to have as president. So your white females came out in large majorities to vote for Donald Trump, and they may possibly wind up going out here to vote for Trump again because they would rather be under white male authority than be involved with a president who has a black female vice president. Because most white females feel very slighted about the whole idea of a black female having more power than they do and being in a more powerful position than they are. And this is something that is intrinsic to white supremacy. Your white female wants to feel superior, and she wants to feel elevated to a higher position. And because she wants to feel elevated to a higher position above your black woman, she looks at this decision by Joe Biden as a middle finger up at her. And this does not give her any incentive to go out here and vote for Joe Biden, because your Joe Biden has elevated a black woman to a higher position over a white woman, a complete no-no as related to the unwritten social rules of white supremacy. So your Joe Biden has practically put nails in his own coffin as related to his campaign, because he just didn't understand how the subtle politics of America are transpiring around us. Yes, your Joe Biden is to some people is considered a racist and a white supremacist in his own way, but it looks like, again, he doesn't understand the nuances as related to the unwritten social rules of America with this decision. Now, he was, some people allege, pressured into picking this Kamala Harris as related to trying to by some black people as alleged, but I don't believe that they had that kind of influence. I believe that the party was afraid of losing once again. Unfortunately, what they did was put themselves on a fast track to losing once more because they really didn't understand the demographics as related to the voting bases, and they didn't understand the demographics as related to the voting bases they needed to win, because going out here and picking a black woman who waged war on black men is an easy way to lose large groups of black men at the polling place, and choosing this black woman to be elevated above white women is a fast way to lose the demographic of white women. Again, two essential bases desperately needed by the left in order to win this election, and they did, understand what was important about how they needed these demographics in order to win. Just like in 2016, the left is making the exact same mistakes as related to taking their demographic bases for granted, and they're trying to appeal to people based on the whole platform of progressivism, but not understanding most black people, we are beyond progressive politics. What we wanted to see was tangibles, and we wanted to see a group of candidates who were focused on providing tangibles to black people. And when we look at Biden's proposals, which have been nothing like Lift Every Voice, which bring absolutely no value to black people, we don't see any sort of real serious effort as related to tangibles, and like trying to help black-owned businesses get an opportunity to advance, getting black men back into their roles of head of household with an investment in black manhood and black masculinity, and an effort to bring the black man back as a head of household. Nor do we see from this platform any sort of support for tangible reparations for black people as related to past discrimination as related to slavery and ongoing discrimination in the workplace that many black men like myself have suffered as related to your black white man, black woman team. When we see the team of a white man and a black woman together, most of us black men know it's not about tangibles, it's about team white supremacy getting ready to go after the black man. And when we look at team white supremacy of the white man and the black woman coming together, we know it's never any good and never any benefit for black men or the black community. So this whole choice to pick Kamala Harris, this is not going to go over as I see it well, because when I'm looking at Biden, he's taking the black male vote for granted, and even worse, he's taking the white female vote for granted once more, a demographic that killed Hillary's campaign in 2016, and Joe Biden has just made the exact same mistake in 2020. And Kamala Harris was someone I would have never picked for a vice president. As I see it, Joe Biden would have been in a far better place if he wanted to pick a female candidate with Elizabeth Warren. She would have probably kept the white females at bay. I mean, they would have been upset with that choice as well, but she would have managed to pull more of the progressives and the moderates in, and she would have helped build a bridge as related to black men who would have felt a little bit more comfortable with Warren as a vice president. Or your Joe Biden could have just gone out here and pulled a white male in, but his campaign just comes across as very desperate, very sloppy, and very disorganized, and not in a place to take on one of the weakest Republican candidates that's ever been out there. I mean, Donald Trump is a very weak candidate when you take a critical examination of him. And if you have the right strategies, you can easily beat Donald Trump. I mean, I could run against Donald Trump and possibly beat him, because if I come in with a solid platform and a solid set of programs as related to tangibles, especially for alienated demographics like black men, and I have tangibles as related to men in general, and talk about rebuilding the American man, investing in the American man, both men and women are going to go for that, because women want a rebuilt, strong man to be the head of household, to be a husband, to be a father. And most American businesses want a functional man in order to get their work done and get their businesses competitive again. So it just doesn't take much to beat a Donald Trump, but the Democrats keep dropping the ball because they just, as I see it, are not taking, they're taking people for granted. They're continuing to take demographics for granted. And when you take demographics of people for granted, what happens is those people wind up voting for the other candidate, because you're not bringing anything concrete to their table, and you're not presenting any sort of tangibles that appeal to them. And when I look at your Joe Biden and his running mate, I don't see a platform that brings any sort of tangibles to black people. All I see is Team White Supremacy getting ready to wage war on the black man. And most black men, like myself, when we see that pairing and we see no tangibles for ourselves, and we see no incentive for voting for this team. Now, this team says we need to get Trump out of office, but you have to give us a platform of what you're going to do for people in order to get people excited about your campaign. You just can't take the American people for granted, and you can't sit there and say we are all about so-called diversity when this very same black woman went out of her way to oppress black men, and this white man went out of his way to put black men in prison, in a mass prison industrial complex, and wrote laws to oppress black men. I mean, yes, we have a pandemic going on, and we have a president who clearly isn't qualified, but what are you bringing to the table to get people to support you outside of you have all of this experience, but you haven't done anything for black people? And that's what your Joe Biden has done. He doesn't understand that he's practically alienated a lot of people because he has not brought any sort of platform for tangibles to black people to the table. And if you don't bring tangibles to the table, you're not going to get people to vote for you, because saying the other guy is bad is not an argument. When you go to become a politician or a businessman, you have to present to the table what you're going to bring to people, what you have to offer to people, and what kind of results you hope to receive from people bringing you on the job. I mean, it's just like a job interview. You have to show how you're qualified to get this job. And from when I look at Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they clearly show me they aren't qualified to become the next president and vice president of these United States. Now, this video is not going to be monetized, so I'm going to ask everybody to please donate to the Cash App so I can continue making more videos, or donate to the PayPal so I can make more videos. And if you want to try some of my positive SJS Direct fiction, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, or the Spinsterella trilogy, you can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. And also, I don't take any sides in this whole political situation. I am not for Biden or Trump. I am looking for a qualified presidential candidate, and I am presenting my critical analysis as related to the objective perspective I see of both candidates, of their strengths and weaknesses. And this is about presenting an argument on getting the best candidate to the table. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and Kindle this fall, E-Steam Blast from the Past. Hell's aspiring angel takes on her demonic doppelganger in this time-traveling, action-packed E-Steam series adventure. Pre-order your copy of E-Steam Blast from the